The United States is the world's preeminent economic and military power, but the American mood, it seems, is characterized by uncertainty. Opinion polls point to a hunger for change, but will this year's presidential election deliver it? For 6 decades, my guest today has charted the course of the US in novels, essays, and biting commentary. Is the sun setting on imperial America? Welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Let me begin with this year's American presidential election. Do you care who wins the White House?
I don't take it personally, no. I don't really care that much.
Does it matter?
Yes, of course it matters. It matters to everybody. We have had an aberrant government for quite some time now. You must remember the current president has never been elected by the people. Mr. George W. Bush was anointed by the Supreme Court, most illegally, re-elected due to a stolen election in Ohio in 1904. And he's not even legitimate. And yet he goes marching around, I'm wartime president, I'm wartime president, I'm wartime president. Well, he isn't one. He's making wars as he goes along. And he knows that's where the power is, the power of the military, procurement. And I think he thinks it's fun. I think he thinks these are toy soldiers he's playing with.
Leaving aside the contentious views you have about the legitimacy of George Bush's elections, because I don't really want to get into that right now, I'm just wondering about your response to my question about whether it matters, because reading your extensive writings on the current state of America, you basically portray a country that has sold out to corporate interests, where military and economic powers have fundamentally corrupted the ideals of the Republic. So why does it actually matter whether it's Obama, Clinton, McCain?
Would you like to visit Guantanamo with me and look for a cell? We're a police state now. People are being locked up, renditioned. I've just come from Italy, where somebody had been arrested on the streets of Milano and shipped off to Egypt. In the interest of American security, you see, we're surrounded by enemies on every side. We must attack. Well, it has been a reign of terror since 9/11, all cooked up by the most extraordinary crew of people that we've ever seen in high office. And the people are not consulted. We have the worst educational system for the general public of any first world country. And simultaneously, we have a totally corrupted media that serves whoever's in power and will pay enough for television time.
But these big themes that you draw out about the poor education, the failed media, these are protracted over time, and yet you seem to be saying there's something exceptional about the Bush years, and I'm somewhat confused about that disjunction.
Well, don't be confused any longer. We have never had the Constitution shredded by a sitting president, but that has happened. A few months ago, we got rid of, practically officially, of our lovely gift from England, you know, habeas corpus and so on. Magna Carta, it's gone. It was the basis of our legal system. It's gone.
Do you believe that when you say these things, most Americans have sympathy with you, or are you talking to a very, very small number of people inside the United States?
I've got to warn you about something. I am very popular. Just get over it that I'm some sort of aberrant who goes around saying unpleasant things about who happens to be the president. Unfortunately, I have to occasionally, and that is how we're going to try and find out where we are in the world. We were lucky to get 2 pretty good candidates on the Democratic side for this election, and one of the most incredibly awful ones, the Republican Senator McCain, who really, you remember Mr. Magoo? Blind, misses the point to everything, and is always, you know, stepping off a cliff. Senator McCain is Mr. Magoo.
Senator McCain, of course, the most experienced of the candidates.
No, he isn't. Now, this is junk that is put out there by the Republican Party machine. It is junk. He's a great warrior. Well, he smashed up his airplane. Normally, you get, in the Navy, normally you get court-martialed for that. Then he was taken prisoner and held for a long time and made no efforts to free himself or do anything else.
Showed the most enormous courage under terrible pressure. Courage doesn't really matter in a president, doesn't it?
Well, not courage of that kind. What has he ever done? What has he ever said? What has he ever stood for?
What he has done over many years in the US Senate is stand up to many in his own party. He showed an independence of mind which might well be a useful asset in a president of the United States.
It might well be if he had any glint of sincerity and a nature that is McGooish, is trying to go for the presidency. He hasn't got anything else to do. He has no ideas.
Let me ask you about Obama and Clinton, because you are a Democrat.
Yep.
You've always been a Democrat. You, for some time, seemed to sympathize much more with Hillary Clinton, but
well, I know her better.
Now that the race appears to be in its final lap and Obama is regarded by pundits as pretty much certain to win the nomination, do you think she should withdraw now?
No. She's fought a good fight. And it was for something larger than herself. Well, you can argue, of course, it's just for herself. She's the candidate. But simultaneously, no woman has ever got that far in our politics. And she's been a brilliant politician. And I certainly wish her well. I'd like to see both of them, like two consuls brought in the Roman Republic.
You were quoted very recently as suggesting that her continued pursuit of the presidency was crazy.
Well, I'm looking at it sympathetically from her point of view. Yes, it is crazy. She hasn't got the money. She's desperately trying to raise it. And she has the entire press against her. This was a big trick. The Republicans are very good at smearing people. When we had a very good candidate, and Senator Kerry of Massachusetts, an old trick of political gangsters is wherever your opponent is strong, you hit him. Kerry was a genuine war hero, which Mr. McCain has never been, and Kerry was knocked down for that. They said, well, he wasn't courageous, he lied about it, and they had swift boats people come out. They spent a lot of money smearing him, and that is the main job
Gore
they
Vidal,
do.
if I may say so, you are very adept at turning your answers into attacks on the Republican Party, but the fact is,
Well, it's very easy to.
But in the Obama-Clinton fight, there are many people on Obama's side of the fence who believe it is the Clintons themselves who've been responsible for introducing a very strong and arguably dangerous racial element to the contest.
It's arguably dangerous for any Democrat, pro-Obama or pro-Clinton, to bring this up. This is exactly what the other team wants to do. The only thing they know is how to smear people. The other day, there was a guy called Luttwak, who's a neoconservative of the lowest form. He's published an op-ed piece in the New York Times, in my view, an extraordinarily bad newspaper. There he is, and Luttwak is saying, no evidence, you know, everything in America is opinion. Nobody has a thought. And the opinion was, well, we should beware of Obama. I mean, they've already smeared him as a Muslim.
But hang on. I'm more interested in Hillary Clinton's views than Mr. Luttwak's. And it was Hillary Clinton who said quite plainly that I am the candidate in this Democratic race who can appeal to the white
candidate
working
says
class.
That.
Was that a mistake, though?
No. Every candidate. Why is she opposing him if he's the right
in racial terms, to say, I am the person...
She didn't do it in racial terms.
She talked about the white working class.
No, she didn't. Those were the various handlers within the party, where she was strong with the votes. And I'll tell you where she's weak. Gets a nice laugh, and I think your listeners might be amused by it. When she started to run for senator from New York, she got all the psephologists in to report where she's popular and so. And they discovered that there was one group that really hated her. This is white, middle-aged men of property. And she was talking about it to others, And she said, you know, I didn't know what on earth have I done to them. So she was trying to figure out how she could rectify this unfortunate situation. And she finally, I saw her sometime after she had been told the bad news about this group that didn't like her. And she said, I said, well, what's the reason? Well, she said, apparently I remind them of their first wife. And this...
I want to ask you, if I may, about Obama, though. Obama, and again, I'm looking back at something you wrote quite recently. You said he's fresh, but he hasn't done anything, and you can't win with cliches. Do you think that is what he's trying to do?
Well, I think that is an absolute truth that I expressed.
No, but the point is it cliches that he is...
Well, I don't see anything else but. I mean, it's standard political rhetoric for a liberal from Chicago in a race for president.
People have compared him to JFK. They say his
well,
rhetoric...
Jack was not the greatest statesman of all time.
But he was certainly a rhetorician who could energize, electrify the American public.
I don't think you weren't there then.
Well, I wasn't around at the time, but I've certainly seen his speeches since, and they were quite extraordinary, as indeed one could argue some of Mr. Obama's.
Well, yes, so what? A good speech is a good speech, that's that. What's a policy? What's a good policy? Was Jack's invasion of Cuba a good policy? Was his jacking up the war in Vietnam into really a major war? Well, for 1,000 days, this is enough bad activity on his part. So, you know, he's not a paradigm to refer to.
But if Obama wins this nomination, as he's almost certain to, will you change your mind about him?
Well, I have nothing to change. I'd be perfectly happy if he were elected president.
Well, you don't want a man mouthing cliches in the White House. You want a
man,
as you say,
when was there ever anything else
policy.
But?
Let me ask you to take a step back, if you would. You've been an observer of politics, not a player, and yet in your career, earlier in your career, let's say in the late 50s, early 60s, you could have been a player. The Democrats wanted you. You ran for office once, and then you were offered what looked like a safe congressional seat, but you decided not to do it. Do you regret that?
No, because I was writing books again. That's far more important than serving in Congress.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Do books make more of a difference than serving your country in the Congress?
Do you know what that entails? I'd like to take you on the floor of Congress one day, and you see outside all the lobbyists lined up. And they have a buzzer, and this is the House of Representatives. And the buzzer is going off, which means there's about to be a vote called. And as you go in, 2 or 3 lobbyists will say, yes on 147, yes on 147, no on this one. They're getting their orders from the people who've given them the money. Now, you can be pure and not be bought. It's a rough fight. And I would rather take on those who are out to destroy the republic, like the gang currently involved in management.
But if your weapon is a novel or an essay, what difference can you make?
I seem to have.
Do you think you have?
Well, I could prove it.
By?
I have polls are done on me. What did you most like about the speech he gave? What positions do you approve of or not approve of? I mean, we analyze everything.
We read your work, and we hear many of your criticisms of the United States, and we've heard them in this interview, and I'm left wondering whether you actually love your country. It's a complicated relationship you seem to have with it.
Anyone who loves a country is in such trouble. That is nonsense. Out of that has come every war, every famine, everything that is wrong in the Western world.
But you care about the United States of America.
Well, why do I talk about it? Why do I care about it? Why am I talking to you about it? It's not that I am exhilarated by sitting here.
No, I suspect it's not. But
Gordon, well,
what is the answer then? Why do you, and why over your career have you spent most of your time writing about the ideals that brought America into being, about its history?
Shouldn't somebody do it?